Transmigrated as a disabled protagonist, how should I continue the script? Chapter 25, Temporal Monster. At night, the three who went out to gather intel had all returned. Joshima Ken and Kakimoto Chikusa stood on either side of the sofa. After reporting their individual findings, a deep-seated fear from their pursuit of the nightmare that led them to Rokudo Mukuro arose. Mukuro-sama, the Sheep King, is an ability user who manipulates gravity. We can't get close to him, and we're concerned that close combat attacks will be ineffective. Could his ability affect your illusions? It's fine. His subordinates are his weakness. That's right. Mukuro-sama, that person ranked second seems to not meet your contract bearer's requirements. Incomplete isn't frightening, what's frightening is someone who's incomplete and useless. After hearing this, Rokudo Mukuro gave a brief response to the two who were both his pursuers and companions. He extended his hand forward, grabbing the air, and the mist of his illusion formed into a trident. The trident lightly tapped down, emitting a metallic sound of contact. Surabachi Street is actually a feng shui treasure, those two are extremely outstanding, yet they haven't been absorbed into other forces. Ken, Chikusa, the intelligence gathering can end here. The top 3 people in Futa had ranked, I've already met 2 of them. The third one is temporarily nowhere to be found, but that doesn't matter. His deep red pupils, symbolizing the 6 paths of reincarnation, were the result of human experimentation that granted him power. Tonight, I'll deal with the 2 of them. Futa, who was locked in the room, appeared. His eyes were lifeless, as if he had lost all hope in the current situation. There was only one thought in his mind. Rokudo Mukuro, you've got the wrong person. The true heir of Vangala Decimo, Sawada Tsunayoshi, sneezed on the bus heading to Yokohama, rubbed his nose, and looked desperately at the group of people traveling with him. Why is even Hibari-senpai joining in on this trip? You're lying on top of the bus, getting windblown, aren't you even planning to come down and join us? Reborn, sitting beside him, had fastened his seatbelt securely, like an obedient child who followed the rules, daily indulging in acting cute. The number 1 assassin was calculating in his mind. Yokohama seemed to be the territory of the port mafia. This time, it wasn't some ridiculous display of brotherhood for that Damisuna. The first meeting between the foreign Italian mafia and the native Japanese mafia might just take place in Yokohama. Yokohama, hopefully, the organization whose internal conflict had just ended wouldn't keep an eye on Rokudo Mukuro. Otherwise. Tch, everyone wants a good seed. The most flexible and powerful youth, being at the age with the highest potential, can be taught over the course of a few years, making him the most suitable for cultivating loyalty to the organization. Moreover, illusionists have always been a specialty of Italy and rarely flow into other foreign organizations, but this does not mean that foreign forces are not watching closely. Reborn muttered, even if we lose Rokudo Mukuro, it's necessary to find someone of equal value. What are you talking about? Sawada Tsunayoshi sensed Reborn speaking and looked over in confusion. Nothing, Reborn smiled innocently. Sawada Tsunayoshi didn't know why he shuddered, the inherited hyper-intuition had activated since Reborn had arrived, dragging him to a near-deadened level of constant alert every day. Normal danger no longer triggered that chilling feeling in him. A bustling, modernized trading city lay right before his eyes. In the night, 5 towering buildings stood tall in the city center, becoming landmarks alongside the Ferris wheel, their reflections visible in the eyes of every traveler entering this city. Wow, so beautiful. This is Japan's 2nd largest city. It looks so lively at night. Yokohama, Lembo-sama wants to eat local specialties. Huh, we've already arrived. The bus slowly made its way into the import district, and on top of the bus, Hibari Kyoya sat up. The jacket of his school uniform, draped over his shoulders, was lifted by the slightly cool summer night breeze, prompting him to press it down with his hand. His cold demeanor and strange behavior were equally embraced by this city, and the passers-by were not surprised. There are plenty of people stranger than him. This city, which accepted him just like Namamori did, made Hibari Kyoya feel a little more fondness for it. Will there be a lot of carnivores? He was drawn to Yokohama by the powerful individuals of the same age that Reborn mentioned, and while he still held on to his doubts, upon arriving in Yokohama, his battle instincts were starting to get excited. A city's underworld darkness is determined by its level of prosperity. For a modern large port city to maintain order, keep logistics flowing, yet show so few police officers, there must be a high-ranking figure controlling everything from behind the scenes. He believed that even if this figure was not a powerful fighter, their subordinates certainly would be, and these people would be his next challenge. Only the elderly, the sick, and the weak remained in the sheep organization. A young member, barely in his teens, went missing for a while, but it didn't raise any suspicions. Everyone assumed he couldn't resist sneaking out to play. Then, the boy, even shorter than Nakahara Chuya, returned, his head lowered, holding a cold weapon in his hand. Nakahara Chuya glanced over after stepping outside. Only part of a trident? You found it? The boy nodded, frightened, without saying a word. Be careful out there. Nakahara Chuya only offered this piece of advice and didn't concern himself with what the boy had picked up. The young man followed behind him all the way to Nakahara Chuya's room. Nakahara Chuya couldn't help but ask, Kimura, do you have something you want to say to me? The young man presented the trident in front of him, and Nakahara Chuya burst into laughter. I don't need something like this. Nakahara Chuya's hands, mostly concealed in his pockets, rarely exposed his skin. Even in the summer, he wore a coat and a t-shirt, with the hood of his hoodie down, revealing a handsome, fair face. He didn't fully trust the sheep member, yet he still softened a little. So he forced himself to accept the trident. This kind of toy. The boy's hand trembled, and the sharp trident easily cut through the other's skin. Nakahara Chuya hissed, glancing at the back of his hand. It was just a tiny cut, barely a drop of blood. His first reaction to the injury wasn't to blame the boy but generously reassured him, it's fine, you were just careless. The boy, dazed, withdrew the trident. Nakahara Chuya frowned, has my credibility dropped that much in their eyes? He pressed his hand against the back of his blood-stained hand, trying to suppress the anxiety in his heart. Sheep. It used to be his family. In the clinic, there were 2 beds arranged. Yakimaru lay on the single bed by the wall, his body tilted, his eyes, which would never close, seemingly watching Dazai Osamu throughout the night. The pristine white hospital bed sheets, combined with the sight of a beautiful youth with missing limbs, easily triggered a certain unsettling excitement. Mutilation is a form of horror, and horror can also be a kind of beauty. Yakimaru's entire body appeared to unfold like a person revealing themselves, laid out like a beautifully decorated box. Looking at his expressionless and indifferent face, reaching towards the warmth in his chest and the beating of his heart, one couldn't help but feel shaken by the meaning of his existence. When Mori-san came to check the room that night, he could only sigh, thinking children will always be children. Dazai-kun, make sure to give him a blanket. Dazai Osamu stretched an arm out from under his blanket, pulling the motionless Yakimaru closer and covering him with it. Feeling Dazai's movement, Yakimaru sat up and took the blanket to wrap around himself. Mori Ogai closed the door to the room and went back to rest. Staying at the Port Mafia isn't as safe as the clinic. Well, what can you do, he's just an unpopular, overworked boss. With Mori-san gone, Dazai Osamu poked his head out, gazing at those unreal gray-brown eyes. Yakimaru's will must have reached the limits of humanity. I want to sleep, Dororo. Don't lose. Good night. Sleep. Tomorrow, let's go laugh at that little guy, who's always so trusting of others. He will die. Falling into sleep beside the boy with the face of an angel, calm and serene, his soft brown hair spread out. White bandages wrapped around his right eye beneath the strands of hair. His skin lacked the healthy hue of blood. Unconsciously, on the bed next to Yakimaru, he let down all his guard, entrusting his safety to the other. The implication. Even if you killed him, he would smile and accept it. Yakimaru, without any reason, saw such an image and, as sleep approached, couldn't stop imagining Dororo. But the white life flame twisted his face in the outline. White like cotton candy, Dororo. So sweet. Yakamaru didn't want the dust to cling to her body, watching attentively as she drifted into a peaceful sleep. His dreams had lost their color, left with nothing but void. Rokudo Mukuro slowly walked in the human dreamscape beside him, leaving behind those beautiful dreams. He centered his attention on the Suribachi Street area, sensing the dreams of the people there. As expected, most of them had bleak and hopeless minds, beyond saving. A small number of them gritted their teeth, enduring for survival, dreaming of a clean and prosperous life, no different from the lower-class commoners struggling to survive in Italy. Those abandoned by society reside in places abandoned by society. In any nation, in any city, crime always takes root in the depths of human hearts, and the darker a person is, the less they can imagine the light. No, it's as if they have forgotten the light. The blue-haired youth's consciousness was like a mist, drifting through a dreamscape, not delving deep, searching for something. Then, he saw today's darkest dream. This gigantic dream came, capable of crushing everyone, with only its center revealing a fragile glow. The gloomy and oppressive aura was enough to suffocate one's spirit, radiating an intense and deadly presence. Any illusionist seeing such a dream would retreat 3 steps, worried about being contaminated. But Rokudo Mukuro was different, he couldn't help but reach out his hand to press against the opponent. The seemingly thin membrane was incredibly sturdy. The barrier of the mind was even more solid than walls of steel in the real world. Rokudo Mukuro clearly felt the dream's master sleeping deeply in the gloomy interior, in the dark void of the sky, the dimly lit land without light, flickering with a deep red evil light in a distant place, yet it seemed so close, like a shadow with a form, but unable to bite and swallow the will surrounded by darkness. Is this place hell? If it is hell, then why is it tolerating that out-of-place light? You also want to return from hell? After going through the illusory realm of the 6 paths of reincarnation, acknowledging the suffering of falling into the realm of beasts, Rokudo Mukuro silently laughs, deeply understanding the difficulty of emerging from the darkness. He had looks down on Yakamaru. Such a powerful spirit force is tied down, if released, it will unleash an unparalleled strength, enough to ignite the flame known as willpower. Rokudo Mukuro cannot imagine that someone like him could actually be ranked second in power, will the first being even more terrifying? Yokohama have so much hidden dragons and crouching tigers. After hesitating for a moment, Rokudo Mukuro heightened his vigilance and planned to enter the dream, to take a look. He used the mist illusion to conceal his figure, borrowing spiritual resonance, and with extreme difficulty, he hid within Yakamaru's world, which was filled with negative spiritual energy. As soon as he entered, Rokudo Mukuro encountered a massive spiritual pollution. His deep red eyes of reincarnation struggled to withstand the force of the demon god on behalf of the host. In his daze, it was as if he saw the truth hidden in the darkness. The 12 demon gods hide in the darkness, vague and unclear, only revealing fragments. The sacrifice Yakamaru hanging in the central of the dream. He breathes. He is sound asleep. He emitted a faint white glow, making Rokudo Mukuro understand the past events that had transpired with the other person. Threads of silk entwined around the boy, binding his limbs, cruelly separating it from his body. His head was tightly bound, forced to lift up, revealing a grotesque hollow beneath the peeled-off skin of his face. Rokudo Mukuro was deeply shaken, frowning as a strong sense of disgust and revulsion surged within him. This is a sacrifice? The more terrifying thing is that the illusionist felt that, under the influence of the dream, he also developed the thought of killing the other, as if the other was some sort of natural enemy that needed to be eliminated. No. The demon god has never been able to take Yakamaru's life. They took everything from this person that could be seized, delivering the divine punishment of a curse, weakening his strength, striking his spirit, but they couldn't kill him. The wrathful wails would only come from the demon god. Yakamaru did not die. He was connected to the 12 powers of the demon gods, surviving by absorbing their evil strength. Without eyes, he used the mind's eye, without limbs, he used prosthetics, without a straight back, he used artificial supports to hold his spine upright. From crawling to standing, it drained all of Jukai's abilities. What does this dream symbolize? Rokudo Mukuro, relying on his extraordinary sensory powers, sensed the lingering resentment of the 12 demon gods. Why do I feel like the monster that was sacrificed has instead become the sacrificial offering? Yakimaru, suspended in midair, was not someone pitiful in this dark world, but someone the very darkness itself that could not hinder. His breathing was entangled with fate, predetermined by destiny, a faint life force struggling, bound to the shackles of his body, hidden beneath, devoured by the power of the demon god. Before Rokudo Mukuro's eyes, everything turned black as he suppressed the mental corruption and tried to keep watching. The sacrificial offering stirred slightly. With every struggle, it was as if it brushed against life and death, and the youth was desperately trying to wake up. Discovering that Yakimaru's consciousness was awakening, instinctively rejecting outsiders, Rokudo Mukuro didn't intend to engage in a direct confrontation with him, so he retreated a step, choosing to leave this extremely broken owner's dream. This night had caused him immense mental exhaustion, rendering him unable to visit another dream. After Rokudo Mukuro timely escaped, new changes occurred in Yakimaru's spiritual world. In the depths of darkness, Yakimaru stood on a sacrificial altar in the void. Beneath his feet lay an even deeper shadow. The reflections of the 12 demon gods mirrored in his silhouette, even more terrifying than the demon gods themselves. The protagonist of Dororo, he is the heavenly child descended in response to the wishes of all beings. Though the anime does not mention this, the manga and game versions vaguely suggest it. He is highly likely to be a deity undergoing trials in the mortal world, either a reincarnated god or a reincarnation of a divine artifact. Some newcomers have considered this possibility, but none dare to bet on whether the anime includes such a benefit, as there's no real reward for winning that gamble. If you want to bear the responsibility of saving the world, whether you're a human or a god doesn't matter, for even gods will lose themselves because of mortals. He looked into the distance, bewildered and powerless, at his own dark world. How much longer? Before I can finally kill all of you. He wandered unconsciously, using his imagination to search day and night with limbs that could only be whole in fantasy. The rift in spacetime, which does not belong to this dimension, allows the Hounds of Tindalos to use an incomprehensible method to humanity to travel from the 21st century back to a world 460 million years ago. Those fortunate enough to avoid being tracked by them, such as Yakuran Gesso, who enjoys traveling through parallel worlds, are extremely lucky, as no one wants to experience the feeling of being devoured by such monsters in the memories of parallel worlds. Measured in hundreds of millions of years, the Hounds of Tindalos would take one day to begin their journey, and traveling back to Earth 460 million years ago would require 46 days. It stared intently ahead at the prey that continuously escaped, crying out in hunger. The Hounds of Tindalos could also be called the Hunters of Transmigrators. Anyone unfortunate enough to attempt crossing space-time and encounter them would be relentlessly pursued until death. 460 million years ago. On Earth, not long after its formation, a boy with the appearance of a high school student, his hair pink, sat on the ground eating the last coffee pudding he had brought along on short notice. His eyes were unfocused for a second, and the expression on his face was as though he had no will to live anymore. Realizing that he would run out of food before the monster could get him, he couldn't even enjoy the delicious coffee pudding. Saiki Kusuo thought indifferently to himself. Ah, seriously, how long is this life of running and hiding going to continue? Hasn't Kusuke figured out the pattern of their pursuit yet? I've finished my coffee pudding. It's about time I go back and find the person who brought this monster over. The so-called god of fantasy worlds, the legendary Kusuo-emon, didn't want to admit that despite all his abilities, he couldn't deal with this incomprehensible, life-threateningly hideous monster. Just seeing it was unlucky enough to get chased down. Due to accidentally falling asleep and leaking his psychic powers, Saiki Kusuo felt this was pure misfortune, as he had unintentionally traversed through space-time. In order to escape the Hounds of Tindalos hunting him across dimensions, he didn't even dare to go home. Can you blame him for being ugly? Chapter 25 End.